Detroit is different in the studios once again. And I have somebody, obviously, you know what I'm saying, with some connections and roots to the soil of here. But the soil he's connected to is like more like adjacent. And actually, the whole idea of the city kind of came about connecting them black folks for real. Jason, how are you doing today, my brother?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's been a talk in a mix for a while. Young brother doing different things creatively and in community. And you are a part of the Building Black Brickmasters team. Shout out to Keith Bennett and the collective of so many other people. And this intergenerational group that we'll talk a little bit about. But I really want to get into your story today. But you know, if y'all saw this politics or politricks forum that was happening in HP that you saw like us talking about, you was there. I actually saw Donovan McKinney, state rep, the other day. He was like, yo, man, you was there. So, you know, some people connected, some young brothers connected, some older brothers connected. And near the end, it seemed like brothers couldn't stop wanting to talk about what's happening. But that's all a part of the energy that's coming together with this. And definitely I've been very humble about your ways of building and connecting with community, the way you connect with your family, just so many things. So let's start here. The roots to the soil, the crooked eye, some people may call it, but Inkster. Inkster is a city that is adjacent to Detroit, like right outside, we would say like a little downriver, and it's nothing but black folks. I mean, when we think about the design of America itself, the whole concept, Inkster, the ink of it, black folks. And a lot of the development, when we think of the design of Detroit, I think a lot of people moved into those downriver communities and even like Southwest Detroit, like as time moved on. But how did your family get about there? How many generations deep? What was the story to get y'all to Inkster?
So we are actually three. Well, now it has spread over, but initially, so we're probably about 6 generations now. My father is one of the youngest of 9 children.
Wow.
So my grandmother actually had a second set of children at 45.
Okay. Shout out to grandma.
Right. So he is the oldest of the second set.
Okay.
So I'm kind of in a weird position because I'm the youngest of the first cousins, right? So really my cousins are like my aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
Because they're the older children, right?
Okay.
So my aunts and my cousins are actually my father's age, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of went like that. But the cool part about Inkster is the story of it.
So even before we go there, where before Inkster did your family come from?
Alabama.
Alabama, what parts?
Alabama. Montgomery. Montgomery. Selma. Lower Alabama.
All right, so those Alabama roots that still tie. Do you still have people down there? Do y'all still connect down there?
Yes,
have you ever been?
My brother stays down there right now. I stayed for 12 years. I actually moved from Inkster and moved down there for 12 years.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife. We had children and loved it, but I just wanted to move back because of the culture and different things of that nature.
All right, so the first group, and you said generations deep. So, like, when was the first move up to the north, as some folks down south would say? when did they move, and what was the story behind it?
I believe it's around the 40s, 50s, but it was the migration of the plant, right? Ford. My grandfather was a Ford worker.
Okay.
And that's what a lot of people migrated up north to. And that's the story of not only my family, but many other families. And that's what kind of ties us all in. So historically, people don't know, these communities outside of Detroit started to pop up due to the different plants. So it's an underlying kind of dirty secret, that history that people don't know. So the North was touted as the free, the glory, right? A minority, colored man can come and make the same wage as the white man. But what people really didn't know is that when those Southern black males started to come and can work side by side as the white man, make the same money as him, that white man figured out, hey, I don't want them in our community.
And even more than that is another soon to come. Carolyn Baker, daughter of General Baker, and we think about the work connected to the League of Revolutionary Workers and Jimmy Boggs and the American Revolution, and as automation came, and really just even the roots of the union itself, like
Yes.
the organizing happened because they didn't want to work next to black folks. You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of traditions and institutions, the roots of a lot of American institutions start in some horrific positions if you happen to be black. You know what I'm
We
saying?
spoke on this at Grand Valley. A lot of the cool was birthed from adversity.
Yeah, and Inkster being one of those communities that definitely, when we think about what was happening, because even like you say, like sometimes black folks wouldn't get the same wages, wouldn't get the same opportunities for work, but then ended up in different shifts. What was the community like? In what neighborhood do you remember? Did your grandparents move? Did your granddad and grandparents move straight to Inkster? Did they start in Detroit? Where were they at
They
first?
moved straight to Inkster.
Wow,
So
they moved straight to Inkster. Whereabouts?
a lot of people, so they were in a community called Cardboard City at the time.
Cardboard City. Where is that?
Yep. So Middle Belt, just north of Van Born, between Van Born and Michigan Avenue,
Okay. Okay.
was the neighborhood. It's gone now.
I was gonna say because when I think about that now, I definitely don't see that. But that was one of the cities that was welcoming for black folks at the time.
So it actually, that's how it became. So, and that's how a lot of the other cities that we won't get into were born. And if you notice, minorities, like you go to Hamtramck, you know what I'm saying, the different ones. So the blacks migrated to Inkster. So we were and still are the black suburb. So when you would come up Michigan Avenue from Chicago and from the other places, Inkster was a town you could stop in where historically the blacks had businesses
Yeah.
and things was going on, right? So the street Harrison, that was like how Livernois, the fashion district is, that was Harrison. The 80s took us out with the crack, right? So it started to change, but that's historically what Inkster was.
So the house that you remember your grandparents being in, what neighborhood, what street?
26201 Lehigh.
Okay, Lehigh. I'm familiar with Lehigh a little
Yep,
bit.
yep.
You know what I'm saying?
26201 Lehigh.
Okay.
Infamously, it runs into baby Saigon, as everybody else call it. But my grandfather bought a home, raised his children in it, shopped at Sears, real proud black man coming from the South, had my older set of uncles had really experienced that racism. Even back then, we are adjacent, I mean, right next door to Dearborn Heights. It's a park a quarter mile from the house that I grew up in. I never went to that park until I was an adult male.
So
Because it was on the other side of Beach Daily.
So as you talk about Beach Daily, we're so used to talking about thinking 8 Mile, but one of the things that does loom very large in any mind of a lot of black folks, as we know, Dearborn is for when I was younger and for most of the time, really we would consider the heart of what the Ford family created as things expanded. Close to me is Highland Park, another city within a city that's a stone's throw, and that's the first place the Model T plant was. And then as times went further, the Dearborn campus became that place for the executives and the working man and their families. And it was just always known a tense thought process. And I mean, even kind of to this day, like you a black man driving through Dearborn may not be the best thing for you. And as funny as time has gone, that has also become now coincide the largest population of Arab Americans live in Dearborn too. But me coming up, I remember even this is going back, but the Lord and Taylor incident of Fairlane Mall, which is in Dearborn, and Fairlane Mall's always contentious relationship with younger black patrons, customers, and just black people in general. It's always been kind of rocky. You being so close to even a step further from Dearborn Heights. What was that like, for you growing up? You talked about your uncle. What was it like for you growing up knowing it's like, damn, I'm not supposed to go here, even though technically it's a public space?
So it was a really weird situation for my generation, right? Because we were the first generation where the Middle Eastern population started to migrate and really started to lay roots, right? So we remember the first hijabs and things showing up at school with us. And this was when, like you said, Dearborn was a all-white city. The way Inkster was set up, due to my house being closer to Dearborn, we actually went to Dearborn High School because of how the zoning was. So we didn't go to Inkster High where everybody else. So it was a weird combination because to see Inkster, I saw all black. Right, so I never really experienced or saw like the racism that my uncles them talked about because I
It's
saw
nothing but black people.
I saw black plant workers, pediatrician, lawyers, the mayor, the police was black, right? So I saw a thriving black city at that time. But then I go to school over here in Dearborn Heights, and it was a total different story. And we would have to, equivalent to 8 Mile, you got to get back on the other side of the beach daily when you get out of school. And this was all the way up until the late 90s.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about your parents' journey. What were your parents doing? What do you think kept them in Inkster, in the area? What was it like in your childhood?
Community. That is where you see now my life's work because I remember a different Inkster. I'm the boy that the community produced, right? That proverbial village raised me. We talk about Lehigh, I had been in every single house from, block to block. Intimately knew these people, like not just as my neighbors, as my family. I couldn't get in trouble because I would get in trouble all the way home. I just couldn't. That's how it was. Everybody was my uncle. Everybody was my aunt. So that's the Inkster I remember. Because these families had migrated, now it's progressed, right? Because economics didn't change, more money, people didn't moved in and out. But we always laugh like, hey, everybody in Inkster's family, because originally it might have been like 10 families, you know what I'm saying? You knew the Frenches, the Barthwells, you knew the Johnsons, you know what I'm saying, the Frasers, you knew these different people. You might got some Inkster family out there. So because of that, that's what a lot of people still stuck to, them roots. They had bought homes, was able to acquire property. And that's how my parent, still stayed. He actually, my stepmother has been around so long. I don't remember meeting her, right? So I just got 2 mothers, but she's from Detroit. So I remember actually being a teenager, fighting because at that point in time, Inkster had started to get bad, and my father had started to mature and grow up a little more. Shout out to my stepmother for helping that process along. And she was like, we got to get out of here. I didn't see it as being help at that time, right? So I'm like, man, you a sellout. You trying to leave the hood. This is where we from. This is where the family at. And they ended up getting a house on 7 Mile and Outer Drive. And I despised him for it. I ain't going. I'm staying here because they still owned the house, right? I'm staying here at the house. And he ended up buying another house out here once they got older. He ended up buying another home and settled in beautiful home in Inkster. But it's just the allure of the family is what keep you there.
So now I guess let's get more into your journey. As you talked about Dearborn Heights High School, I kind of was walking the path. I don't know if people know, like in my life journey, at one stint, heading to truck school, I was a Pizza Hut delivery driver at the Dearborn Heights Pizza Hut on Michigan Avenue, not far from Telegraph. So every Friday, I remember we would deliver, I, they would prepare maybe about 45 pizzas that would get delivered to the Dearborn Heights High School
Robichaud.
through the group of the moms that were a part of the moms group. And I speak to this day when I talk about the pouring in of like community inside of a school. So this wasn't like a collection of like 4 or 5 moms or even 6 or 7 moms. This was a collection of about 60 moms that had things so organized, and pizza was just only a part of the every Friday menu. This was maybe around the time 2000 and I'd say maybe 4, 5, maybe like 3, because this is Rasheed Wallace Pistons era. So like, yeah, maybe like 3, 4, something like that. And it shocked me to see this many moms having the households with the expendable income where they can be this present in a school in a collective of that. So I walked into that school and I was already like, this is different. Because the way that I would get bossed around by the different moms of take it here, do it there.
At school, we didn't experience the racism at all.
So, but can you just talk about just the dynamics, not the racism as much as like, what was that type of school like? Because I can only imagine just that presence of community changes the dynamics of the school.
So it was, for us, it was really culturally diverse because it was almost, and to go back and forth, like I said, I had never really experienced like true racism outside of, white kid calling you some crazy stuff or, adults saying something like we had opportunities. My stepmother worked at the prison her whole life. She had state job. My daddy worked at Chrysler. You know what I'm saying? We went on vacation. I went to the sand dunes. I had 4-wheelers, car when I was young. So I had a good life. It just was what it was. And that was a lot of the kids at Robichaud because where we stayed at, that area, a lot of the parents were 2-parent household, had income, plant workers, as well as the Muslim Middle Eastern community had came, whites. So because of that, it was really a lot of pouring into us all. When I speak of friendships, I'm talking 35. I'll be 41 next month in July. When I say friendship, like my oldest friend is from kindergarten, Ray Gray. Like I've been knowing him since kindergarten. And a lot of these kids, like, I speak of it all the time. Like, if I don't know your mama, like her first name, who she is, we can't be friends. Like, that's how long. These women, like, that you talk about, that parent group, they're still around. Miss Julia Lowe. Currently, when she see this, she gonna be on Facebook. Oh, there go my baby. Right now, I'm 41, and this lady been walking me through school since I was young, and the whole community. Yeah, we know her kids, right? But we all her kids. They just got to share her with us. And that's how it was collectively with all of us.
What do you think made the dynamics of that relationship between community and school to exist there?
Because we were integrated. See, the North, we get this good rap as, hey, everything is good there. But we're kind of segregated still. Almost on our own. It's just how it happened. The whites stay where they at. The Indians stay where they at. But because of the infusion, how it was, we got integrated into the school. So because of that black mom group went into the school. They started to become lunch ladies. They started to become teachers' aides. They started to become hall monitors. Right? So by the time I came, it wasn't an experiment no more. It was already going, right? But to hear the other generations, it wasn't always like that. When the first generations of blacks went over to Robichaud, it was bad for them. So that's when, like, my grandmother was a lunch lady. I hear the other ladies talk, you know what I'm saying? So by the time I came, it was fully rolling. The group had already started. But that is what caused it. They wanted to be there to make sure their kids was taken care of, because you did have these kids going over to this all-white school with all-white teachers. But by the time I came, it was a mixed teacher group, principals, the junior high was upstairs. So it was a senior junior high school. The junior high principal was a black woman. And high school principal was a white male, but his son was the football coach. So even within that, it was routinely where you would see father and son, or like within the school district. So we just knew them people.
All right, so we're going from your high school path. After high school, where are you looking to find your footing? Where are your interests? What are you pouring into? Where's your time? Because we're speaking of community. What about you? What was your passion at that time from high school graduating?
So for me, I'm just gonna be honest. I was the one who, which is why I pour in so much now. I kind of had a wayward path, right? I went in and out. On one note, so I spoke of my father and my stepmother. Only child. I'm raised at the house. My father had another son, but he moved to Alabama. Him and his mother moved to Alabama, right? So I was raised by myself. I pretty much had everything. But at my mom's house, I'm the oldest of 11 kids. So it was like a different type of struggle over there. Got all the love, different, right? But my position in the family was different, right? Because I had multiple siblings up under me. My mom got 2 sets of twins. I remember it was me, and then like instantly it was like 6 of us. You know what I'm saying? Like just happened like overnight, and like stair steps. So because of that, I had 2 different roles, and I always say it now, poem, product of my environment. I was part of that 80s, 90s group, right? So although I had parents that were working, doing stuff, the street that I stayed on, Lehigh, was the street over from where it turned into Dearborn Heights. During the early 90s, late 80s, we was the first street for the white people to come over and back crack.
So before we even get into that story, I just want to talk about what was it like as a child, you think, to see one reality living with your father at that house versus another reality living with your mother at that house and sharing amongst the resources, and then looking at your brothers and sisters like, okay, one second, this is, because you kind of basically are looking at, yes.
Survivor's remorse. You don't learn that until you get older.
How did that feel? And like, how did you recognize, when did you recognize it? How did you see it?
Until I became adult. I am a big advocate for mental health, for therapy, right? People in our community just think therapy means you crazy, right? But we have so much around us that has happened to us that we never get a chance to unpack, and you don't realize this. You just go on, right?
So with that, because I'm just...
I didn't learn until I was an adult.
So you're learning it, but what were the emotions you remember at that age? I remember
at that age. Prime example. I remember being at my mom's house, being like the little man, right? She got to work, I got to help. And I'll say it on camera, I can cook better than my sisters, right? I'm the one up under my mama. And it's a 5-year gap, right? So I was the one learning the recipes, helping, doing this, whatever the case, and certain responsibility. But with that responsibility, especially as I started to get older, I started to kind of feel myself. But then, now I go to my dad's house, and guess what? I have to be a kid again. But it's a cool process because I'm also getting this and doing this. So to go back and forth, felt kind of weird. KB Toy Store. I remember that like big. KB and Toys R Us, right? Be at my dad's house for the weekend, and then, we might have went, he got me something from KB, and then I go back and I realize like, wow, I don't got nothing for everybody else. And I remember like going back like that, I can't come. And he would buy you know what I'm saying, my sibling stuff, or, you know what I'm saying, give me money to, hey, you know what I'm saying, get them something off the ice cream truck. So I remember that emotion kind of like feeling bad, you
Yeah.
know?
And with that, you're young and you get the tools as you grow older to process it a lot better.
Yeah.
But the emotion's still real. How do you think your brothers and your sisters were responding? Like, did it cause like a, hey, why can't I go with him?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Fractured relationships, we building them as, you know, we speak now. Being older now, I just did a spoken word poem, which we'll get into later, for my mother. Really just reflecting on everything, right? We had a different type of relationship. Like, I love my mama, but it's crazy because my mother and my stepmother, I have two very different relationships, but combined, it's like really whole and effective for me, right? Because what I didn't, and most people don't have that. You just have a parent that tries really hard and is lacking in the area, and you just lacking. Well, what one was lacking, the other picked up, and vice versa, right? So where at that time my mom was the homebody, she was, you know, teaching me how to cook and do this, and, you know, like really take care of the home. My stepmother was young at that time, you know what I'm saying, career, working hard. She taught me money management. She taught me a lot of stuff that my biological mother didn't, right? But on the same note, at the house, because I'm the oldest and I'm doing this since other kids, I didn't get like that nurturing. But over here, I'm my stepmama baby. You know what I'm saying? She like, come on. And to speak specific emotions, I vividly remember now, and like I say, being able to unpack almost being mad at my stepmother for loving on me.
Wow.
Because I wanted that from my mom.
From the mom. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this to getting older. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, that's, if you hear me speak, you'll hear me say Trina. That's not out of disrespect. That's only because I got my mom. I just know you as Trina. You know what I'm saying? My stepmother. But that's my mama too. You know what I'm saying? Like 100%. That is my mother. You know what I'm saying? I just got two mothers. And it's just wild. Now I'm able to unpack and understand them dynamics. But I remember going through them teenage years where I was like, you ain't my mama. You get on my nerves. Mind you, she a prison card, so she kind of harsh with her exterior. You know what I'm saying? But all in all, I'm blessed to have both.
So as this is happening and growing, and you even have echoed that a couple of times, like between the responsibility that you take on of feeling like, okay, I play a stronger role in my brothers and sisters' lives. Did your mother like explicitly ask of you to do that, or was it just one of those things where you saw the necessity, and it's like, okay, I want to fulfill this role as much as possible to assist where my mother is?
Yeah, no, she didn't ask, but she needed, and it's no way I could see her needing, the kids needing, and not provide. Me and my father just talked about this not too long ago, because at the time, I didn't like it, and I resented him for telling me that, you know. But he said, because I had started to get in trouble, started messing with drugs, doing stuff, you know, and I was at my mom's house, and he came and got me. Nope, you coming over here. And I got to help, you know what I'm saying? My mom, I don't want to be over here, this, that, whatever. He said, the best thing you can do is work hard now and get yourself in a position so you can help them later. You can't help them right now if you're trying to help yourself, right? And I'm like, man, what is you talking about? This ain't how it is. Especially when I see his family, right? Like all my uncles and aunts and how strong they is. Man, what are you talking about? Yeah, nah, right? So I ain't listening to him. I remember he started a landscaping company, which is going strong to this day. And he's a Chrysler worker because he wanted me to do this, right? Try to give me something else. And he provided me the tools, but at the same note, this money coming fast.
So let's talk a little bit about that, the street life. And for people that know, like Inkster, you know, hence like I even lay it with, like, you know, they'll say the crooked eye, you know, like you feel the energy shift. Like you driving down Michigan and it's like, okay, something changed. You know what I'm saying? The same way, like, you driving down Telegraph at certain points, you feel like you in Taylor,
Oh yeah,
or
for sure.
Taylor Tucky, as
Taylor
they call
Tucky.
it.
Oh yeah, you
But
versed.
I mean, I was
Well
delivering
versed
pizzas
in
over there.
it.
Like
Yeah.
I knew I had all the runs in Taylor and all the runs in Inkster. You know what
Taylor
I'm saying?
Tucky.
So
Yes.
yeah, I can tell you, to duck a stray pit bull or Doberman with a large pizza is interesting. But I've developed that skill set. But what was as you, I guess, embrace street culture, street life, the street economy, what was it? How did you get connected? Was it cousins? Was it friends? Because you're connected to this in a different lane per se, because you kind of are into, you kind of like in the tale of two cities.
I'm in the tale of two cities. When Mr. B hears, he gonna be like, "Oh, that Jason," right? But I always say it, and I use the term loosely, only in the environments where I need to use it. But it's specifically for me. I always say, I'm a half a hood nigga, right? And I embraced it as I got older, right? Because just not too long ago, I heard one of my fellow brickmasters, my brother Rodney Fresh, said that he was no longer going to be embarrassed for having a father, right? So I always, and now I'm fully into that, and that's what helps me be in these certain spaces, right? Because I was raised right, right? I had the tools. I chose to kind of go a wayward life for that period of time in my life, for specific reasons. But on the same note, I still, because of the time I grew up in, the older ones was like, no, no, until I was just out there, and then they was like, okay, if you're gonna do it, it gotta be like this. So I was still like insulated and protected. It seems crazy, but I break it down now, and this is why I help so much now, and I mentor the youth, because I realized in their head, they weren't doing wrong. They were only giving me what they had to give me. They didn't have carpentry skills. They didn't have plumber skills to say, hey, come on, do this. So they taught me what they knew, but they still protected me. Hey, don't do this. You don't need to be doing that. Don't you be, you know what I'm saying? Don't be out here being like, and I know that sounds crazy, but it was different. And I realize now, being grown, and I wasn't comfortable. So this is the thing. I'm too clean really to be over there, but I'm too dirty to be over there. And I didn't understand that dynamic.
So in that same zone, like I say, like your entry, like what age we're talking, like how old are you? What's your entry?
16.
Like
I
16.
kind of, yeah. And it was crazy, like on the movies, because I got a strict father who owned me. So I'm hiding that I'm selling dope, right? He would have been crazy, but because of his ties to the neighborhood, people was telling him
Because, yeah, he's from Inkster.
he from the town. So they
it's
like, hey
known.
man,
Yeah.
So I always, it's crazy. I always make the comparison of the scene in Boys in the Hood where Angela Bassett pulls up and she drops Trey off. She say, look, I done raised you as much as I can. It's time for your daddy to teach you how to be a man. So I would go over my daddy's house on the weekends to Lehigh, because after my grandmother had passed, he had the house. So that was the constant, 26201 Lehigh. That was the constant house. Whereas my mom might have moved around a little bit, I was always there. Lehigh was a constant. So when I would go, I knew all the kids on the block. But this time it wasn't summertime, right? It was school time. And I remember my friends being across the street. They a couple years older than me, the old guys, and they actually my son is named after one of him. He passed away, my brother Antoine London, but I named my son after him. I remember they like, "What up, Jay?" It's kind of like Doughboy and Ricky and them across the street, and I'm like, "Hold on." Dad had to go talk to me. Him and my mom talked for a minute. Took my stuff in the house. He gave me the spiel. She left. I went back out like I live here now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was the thing. Now I live here. So because of that, I kind of got a different, you know what I'm saying, asset, because I was
You were more
sneaking
so,
doing this.
and this was the social circle that was already your friends before.
That was my
Now,
friends
and I'm
before.
guessing that their circumstances and their backgrounds and their family, it's a whole different background.
Whole different dynamic, right? And that's why I love that movie, Boys in the Hood. And I even spoke to you just about you. I said, hey man, cool is you, right? Because
Hilarious.
the neighborhood, when we talk about the hood,
Mm-hmm.
it's always just like in a negative aspect, and they always go straight to the gangster.
Yeah.
But that movie actually depicts how the neighborhood really is, right? Because my friends across the street had a single mom, right? She was working, doing the best she could for them. They doing what they doing, but I'm right across the street, 2-parent household. Mom got a state job, had working the plant, right?
Yeah.
But then it's the girl down the street who her parents got nice jobs and they sent her to private schools because they don't want her messing with the boys in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of how it was. So, but when we all meet up, we just friends.
Yeah.
But this is the circle that I'm telling you about that's still protecting me. It was a time like even though I was out there, they was like, go home. This ain't for you.
So soon after, and when do you stop saying, okay, let me
got shot.
stop the street life and let me shift to something else? And what did you shift to, and what was the causation of it?
I got shot.
You got shot.
Yep. Yep.
How old were you? How did it happen? What happened?
I was 19.
Wow.
Right? Pops had just left to Detroit. I dropped out my senior year. I'm about to get it. He like, man, I can't make you do this. You know what I'm saying? You can come to the house, got a new house, and get you a job. You know, just finish school. I wasn't trying to listen. I'm out in the streets at this time. I'm doing my thing. You can't tell me nothing. And in my head, I had achieved what I wanted, right? I was helping my mom. Now I'm the man. I always been in the cars. I got me a sweet car, doing what I was supposed to do. And unfortunate situation, I ended up getting shot. It was what it was. It wasn't life-threatening. I made it out. But
What was the in that? What was the immediate reaction of your mother, your father, your stepmom, your brothers and sisters? What was their response to that?
So with that being said, that's kind of what changed everything. Right before I had got shot, I had one of my friends, Leland Moore, worked for EC Levy Company, a huge construction company, contracting company, and he had got me a job, but I'm still a full street cat, accounting clerk of all things, right? So what that is I would take all this before emails and stuff was really heavy. I would have to take all of the paperwork to the office, to City Hall, go pick some up from Frank Murphy, different, you know what I'm saying, different things. Go get all the tags for the cars. I had a company car, but I was still
In the
in the
streets.
streets, right? I'm in my mother's driveway. She stayed 2 houses off the corner on Florence. They're coming from the opposite the way. I had already gotten some prior beef with the guys.
So this was not like you walking by and you catch
no,
a stray.
this was
This
for
was
me.
targeted for
This
you.
is for me. This is for me. I had previously threw a block party, probably like a couple days before. My daddy asked me not to. Man, chill out. Oh, it's for the kids. You know what I'm saying? It's for everybody. I want to do is back to school, get book bags, stuff like that. All of the kids is outside. It's crazy. Summer day. I'm sitting on the back of my car. Mom on the porch. Kids, my oldest daughter. It's outside, and they shoot up the block. And they just shooting. And I get hit. This is the crazy part. Old man down the street, he gets hit in the leg. Non-life-threatening, none of the kids get hit. But the house next door to my mama looked like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
I immediately just see them.
Yeah.
It's not like on the movies, right? You don't boom, shoot, right? I had my gun on me because that your first response is not to shoot. Your first response is to get away and then shoot back. So I'm trying to get the kids, get my daughter, my mom, getting them. And they're like, oh my goodness, you hit. I don't even know I'm hit at the time.
Because the adrenaline.
The adrenaline. I called my dad because the guys had actually rolled. I saw him earlier. Tell my dad, yeah, because he kind of know the beef I was into. Yeah, I see these guys, you know what I'm saying? Just letting you know what's going on. I'm being honest, and this is what I always speak about when I speak to the youth now. In the midst of, I lost focus, and this is why I tell, it's not just the dope fiends that's addicted to the game. It's the players too. Because at what point are you not doing it for help no more? You been had 20,000 in the shoebox, but you bought a chain. You bought a car. At what point are you not doing it no more? Where you've become you've lost touch with reality.
I think what you're talking about also goes into like it's so tough the older I get, and I think of my relationship with hip hop and the justifications of what it is. And I still think that the cruelty of this nation and the violence of this nation starts justifying things. And through the lens of hip hop, I know for me at a younger age, I would see what I thought was like a level of autonomy and confidence and respect through these men. And in a lot of ways it was, but also it's through a lens of things that can be very destructive. But what you're speaking of is similar to like one of my favorite songs of from Reasonable Doubt. And Jay-Z from Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z's first album, he has a song called The Evils, like the devils. Hence. And as he's talking about like these stories about the relationship between like you define yourself as this is what you do, which is similar to what I think that America kind of places on men in general. We're defined by what we do. And then inside this definition, the machismo, the confidence, the ego starts going. So like, and you know, it's so unique that like I can quote rap lyrics like my grandma could quote scriptures of like, you know, it's similar to what you're speaking, you know, and that relationship of that definition of like, this is who I am, this is what I do best, and this is what I'm gonna always do.
So I was conflicted because I picked up a skill that was honed, for lack of better terms, evil. The skill is me being a people person. The skill is me being able to hustle and love and care so much about what I'm doing that I'm going to engulf myself and learn all the schematics and be really good at that. But I focused that on the wrong thing.
And for that to be where you're shot, that's so unique because you're still tying in like some of the ties to love to community, but also to think that you were to get shot in front of your child and your mother, that has to be a very surreal experience.
This is what's gonna culminate in my life had to change. I could not focus on being shot. You know why? At that time, I wasn't selling crack no more, but I was heavy in the weed game. I had so much weed at my mama's house that I knew, because it was a gunshot scene, that they was coming. I had to get the weed out the house. Because I can't have my mama's house get raided and my little brothers and sisters get took. I drove away. I had to pack up the car, drove away, and ended up passing out.
Wow.
My brother, not my biological brother, but my brother from another brother, Antoine and his brother Moot, they took me to the hospital.
So in the hospital, I'm sure now comes like the layers of thought process. So for anybody, if you ever in a hospital bed for whatever you're going through, you're gonna do a lot of thinking, because the person that's acting like they eating the food and watching the television, you're doing a lot of thinking in a hospital bed. What were the reflections and what's the thought process?
So as I'm leaving, driving before I pass, I call my dad. Dad, I'm hit. I'm hit. It's all right. What's going on? I'm hit. Get up to the hospital. This is the crazy part. I went with my gun. Right? They automatically called the police.
Yep.
The doctor was cool enough to give the gun, because my uncle and my aunt was first one on the scene. Actually gave the gun to my aunt's husband. So that was one blessing, right? Because I was supposed to be in jail. I'm the one who got shot, but that was illegal pistol at that time, which now I am a registered legal firearm owner, but that was one. It was different guns that shot, but what I actually got shot with was a sawed-off gauge. It was loaded with bird shot, and they were so far back that it spread it so much that by the time it hit me, my stuff wasn't life-threatening. It was all superficial. So they were just able to pick them out, the pellets and stuff out. And like I said, mine wasn't superficial. I was in a sling for a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? My chest was messed up. Still got one. I still got a couple in me, but it's one right here that I can feel. At the time, it was like 7 still left in me where they couldn't get to them because it would have done more damage. But they've moved over the years where I gotta go get them took out and certain stuff like that. But my brother, my father's son, who stayed in Alabama, he was like, "You can come down here."
And you basically drop everything and go there.
So listen, I wasn't trying to leave. I wasn't trying to leave. Because
the thought process.
Right? So the psyche say, oh, I got to stop this. But the other half, oh, I got to get them. Right? I remember like yesterday, suited up, right? In my head, I'm about to go out in the blaze of glory. I'm about to go handle this. I remember my father, and I hadn't saw this side of him. Be in the block just looking for me, and he found where I was at. Come on. And I'm like, man, go on, I can handle this. Don't worry about, you know what I'm saying? Come on. And he told me, you gotta go. Leave or don't talk to me. And my mama said the same thing. Collectively, my stepmama, my mama.
Your core.
The core, the people I love the most. Bye, or you dead to me already. I went to the middle of the country. All white people. I didn't see a black person for like 30 days where I went. And I saw a random guy at Walmart. And long story, it changed my life because I was able to see different stuff. And that's why now my mission is exposure for these children, because being down there, I started to see different. I did not know I was an Inkster cat until I wasn't around Inkster.
So this idea of first survival being the catalyst to go there. Where do you find your way? Where do you find your footing? What do you take to? Where do you tap into those talents of connecting to people and knowing your skill sets?
Photography.
Why photography?
It was always like a hobby, but because the hood, right? Don't want to be the weird kid, right? I never really got into it, but I was a kid like buying Instamatic cameras back then. You know, you would go to Rite Aid and pay for them and shoot. And I was just a picture fiend. Old man David Vansel really just took me up under his wing, and he bought me like my first set. Older white man. Like, just a lot of the preconceived notions I had were being shattered, like, down there. His family told me he was a known racist. And, like, there was something about me he loved. And me and him became 70-year-old man. At the time, I'm 20, 21. Best of friends. Like, this is my guy. You know what I'm saying? We went everywhere, and he taught me like the fundamentals. Mind you, we are in the digital camera age at this time. He wouldn't let me shoot digital. We still were shooting film. He had a dark room at the house. I mean, taught me like a purist. You know what I'm saying? No viewfinder. You get 27 exposures and that's it. Let's bring it back. And it brought out the love for photography, especially being down there, seeing these mountains and then these different landscapes, and being able to bring it all full circle with the Dearborn Heights, going to school over there. Do you know I got along with the whites more than the blacks? The blacks was racist to me. They called me Yankees. When they said nigga, it was with a hard R. Like they despised me from being up north, and I didn't understand it.
I would say from having a lot of roots of family down south too, even some Selma, Alabama. My grandmother's father, Papa Rulak, Selma, Alabama preacher. You know what I'm saying? Like always a story they tell about the Klan wanting to lynch a black man, and he was able to intervene in that. But there has been a sense of exceptionalism in the separations that do exist in our communities that I think stand out. So sometimes the people down south, similar to that scene in School Days where you see Samuel L. Jackson talking to Lawrence Fishburne, feel as though, okay, a person like you will take away whatever the slim opportunities that are already granted for black people because you're going to be like a exceptional black person as opposed to what we're looked at. And this divide has been wedged, as we know, between the South for people that travel there for eons, especially if you get further away from like city folks like in Atlanta or Miami or but like if you end up in like a Tuscaloosa or
But I want to offer them
Thomasville or something,
So to stick to my brickmaster roots, right? I want to offer my southern brothers and sisters grace, right?
Yeah, and that's all.
That's
all.
what we speak on is that intergenerational connection with the brickmasters. So I guess it was destined for me to be a part of the brickmasters because I've always identified and kind of went towards the older men because I liked it, the guidance.
Interesting.
So it was a man, Mr. Jerry Smith. I had got a job at Tyson Foods down there, Tyson Chicken, the poultry plant.
Yeah.
I actually worked at a poultry plant for a while.
Man. Hey,
so
that's
I got
some hard work.
A lot of experiences,
That's
right?
some hard work.
But he explained to me why they were treating me
the
like
divide.
that. Yeah, and it became full circle. So think of it in this nature. When we hear like the true racist people speak, they always speak of slavery, right? Oh, that was 400 years ago. You're right. But Jim Crow was 30, 40 years ago, right? It wasn't that long ago, especially down there. So it might have ended, but stuff still hadn't progressed, right?
Yeah.
So think of this concept. As a boy that was raised in Michigan, again, my pediatrician, right? My dermatologist, Dr. Heidelberg, right? Over here on Illinois, one of the first black women dermatologists. My stepmom, great health benefits, right? I'm seeing a black mayor, police chief, all these different things. I go down south. I wasn't raised to fear the white man.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised to look at them the same. But to their credit and their grace, a guy who was literally my same age had a different story.
Definitely.
He would have been raised during Jim Crow. He might have saw his daddy get a dog sicked on him. So all the stuff that we learn about in the history books that we know happened is still kind of history, but it's real experiences. Do you know we all speak of Ruby Bridges, right? The little girl who got integrated. But it was a whole bunch of Ruby Bridges. She's just the famous one that they spoke of.
Yeah, and what's funny when you talk about Ruby Bridges, that's kind of connected to my roots from my dad go back to Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas,
Gotcha.
where my grandmother was basically like in the same class, and she was like, I ain't going to that school.
Jerry Staten, I want to correct that. Jerry Staten was his name, not Smith. Smith was another guy. But so Mr. Jerry, this is like how it became so real for me, and I understood at that point.
Yeah.
When the girls died in the Second Street bombing at the church, his grandmother was the Sunday school teacher. The only reason he and a lot of more children aren't dead is because he was a bad little boy. She was the Sunday school teacher. He didn't want to go. He hid his shoes. They were late because they was walking to church. And finally she said, come on, you going without no shoes. The girls that was in there was the actual children of the pastors and like some of the workers at the church. So the Sunday school wasn't open yet.
Yeah.
So that's why it wasn't more kids in there that should have actually been in the school.
And
this is something that's out of history book, but this is a real.
this is a
breathing
real story when you understand
man
the people.
that's here. So it made me, oh wow, this wasn't
Yeah.
right. This was yesterday for them.
And I often say like you know, and you talk about many lives. I was a truck driver in truck driving.
Sundown
you know,
towns.
I mean, many sundown towns. I mean, it's interesting. Like in life's paths where things would go. I often tell people this. Like, you know, one of the longest stops waiting to dock was it was a couple brothers that both had Confederate flags on both their arms, and I'm just stuck in the truck. You know, this is pre like you know. Wi-Fi ain't happening on my truck or nothing. So you're talking. So, I mean, I'm talking hours with these good old boys basically about where they see the Confederacy and what it represents. So I want to explain this lens. And I already know black folks are their anger right now of how they see things. But this is the lens of
And
where
a
they came
Southern
from,
black, yep.
of a Southern white boy, good old boy saying their thought process was, which I don't agree with, obviously, as a black person. But it's a context in which, hence, I'm, if you know me, I'm a free speech. I want to listen to everything just to get a perspective of it. But their perspective is America was perfect when the South was risen. We didn't have any of these problems. All of this stuff about race, all this stuff about anything else. We weren't as cruel. It was not as bad. And hence, even a lot of those Confederate statues, when you learn the history of it, that was the daughters of the Confederacy because they saw that seeing their men as beaten, defeated, and losers was something that could suppress their families and their generations. So we want to erect these statues of the Confederacy and wave this rebel flag and representative of prestige and honor of the men. Now I'm just telling you the lens of their story, and I'm paraphrasing, adding in, you know, my own language to what they would say of their stories, right? So then you think about the black man's story and what we've been through, and you think about where the statues erected of us. Where's the values kind of connected to us and what that represents and the need of a lot of black women, if they were to pour in, the dangers of what that would be in our community in this face of America. As I say, the roots of this nation create what this nation is to this day. And some of my arguments are that the predisposition to the destructive and violent and oppressive nature runs and coincides so much with the story of America. To remove that, we're removing really the story of this. This is a nation, it's stolen land, it's stolen labor, and it's a stolen loan. The operations and the design of this is more of the guise of a criminal enterprise. Vagrants, thieves, people isolated. This is the root of it and designed for white men with property and businesses. And then you build an infrastructure in and around this, and exploitation, violence, destruction. Even when we look through the path of history in the best books, it's honoring war, death.
It's the American way.
And that is the guise, I think, as we people trying to function in this, and the and the chaos amongst us as black folks, because we'll still be within this functioning through the lens of destruction, but still want to pour into our community like you're doing and do a backpack giveaway through the lens of this. It's the struggles we face that rips away. And even those daughters of the Confederacy said, "No, we don't want our men to deal with this." When we think of what's calcified for generations and what we've dealt with as black men in this nation, this is the reality that we grapple with all the time, that can make us divisive amongst each other, divisive amongst ourselves, divisive and destructive towards society itself, destructive towards our women, destructive towards our children. This gives a context. And as I'm giving a context, this is definitely no excuse.
It's no excuse at all.
But it just context gives you a context of some of the things that we're facing, that as I put words to this, I'm hoping another brother may be able to grab onto it, and hopefully it can help them pace themselves in the matrix of this theater that we look at as American life.
Culture is key. That's, in the end, that's how I got back home. That's why I moved back home. Culture.
Yeah.
At that time, had been married for a while, multiple kids, right?
How did your wife take to, hey, we going back? Or I want to go back?
She didn't. Actually, we separated, and I took the kids.
Wow.
I moved back. I took the kids.
Wow.
She came later.
Wow.
That's how it happened. But in her defense, you hear the crazy stories. You see, when we go on vacation, I'm with my wild cousins, or my friend that I told you these stories about, but I'm only with him for a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want to move there. That's
crazy.
And I'm not. This is pre the entertainment district, Detroit. This is pre. You know what I'm saying? All of that. So we going to for real Inkster. You know what I'm saying? We going to Brightmo. I'm taking her. You know what I'm saying? When we on vacation, we hitting the spots, and she like, oh, I don't want to live there. But I remember when. You know, I remember a time. I remember this family, and I didn't have family like that in Alabama, right? So
Yeah.
Funny story. My wife is actually Polish, right? So for all intents and purposes, she looked white. But when I met her, she was a full-blown Mexican. But that's because she went to live with a Mexican family when she was really young. And she wasn't around her family, right? Her mother went to prison, and she went to live with this Mexican family, and they raised her. So she don't know how to cook no American food. The stuff that she know how to cook, I done taught her. But at the time I met her, she's fully bilingual. She was watching the telenovelas, right? The stories, but the Mexican stories. Telemundo, the music. She cleaned with Pinoline and the whole night. I really thought she was a Mexican.
So even in that culture, honors family in a different way,
I speak
and
that.
especially fathers play a role. If anybody has, and you know, I've had only a couple, but I'm gonna welcome on a couple of my Chicano brothers that represent here. But fathers and family play different roles out what I've witnessed in
Big
Chicano
time.
families.
And the brothers, just the male structure of the family, right? So that's what I came up with. Now, I want to preface my comments because I don't want to, you know what I'm saying, make nobody mean, but this is like the story of love and how it triumphs, right? So I remember telling my daddy, my uncles, them, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, I got this Mexican chick, you know what I'm saying? I promise you, she told me she white, but in my head, I'm thinking like she mixed, you know what I'm saying? Like the mama white, you know what I'm saying? You got a Mexican daddy, whatever the case. I saw this baby picture, and it was a white child, right? So I'm like, oh, you white, like for real, right? So it's funny. So now my kids growing up, right? And me and her talk, like, so the difference with her is she never really been around white people, so she wasn't raised white. So her even view of white America is not the same. It's from a Hispanic
Perspective.
And fast forward, we've been together 18 years, right? So now it's through us, you know what I'm saying? So she will spot racism more than myself because I'm used to it. She is like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't see how they treating you, whereas I'm like, don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? So it was a wild dynamic, but it's crazy as pro-black as I am. Like right now, she right out with a white girl. It's hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Like the story when you get to know us, but race is like a hot topic in our household. Big topic. When that was one of the things that prompted me to move from down south, right? So the whole time I was there, Obama was in office. I remember when Trump ran, like he started the process the first time, things changed. Like
I'm guessing
South
like
instantly,
that.
no,
Because
the South will rise again.
So for people that understand some of the the premise of even the "Make America Great Again" phrase goes into some of what I was talking about, the brothers with the Confederate tattoos on their arms, of the thought process of things were great before. And this was actually a symbolism from one of the best, I love marketing and stuff, campaign commercials ever from Ronald Reagan, as much as it's like, ugh, Ronald Reagan. This was a Ronald Reagan re-election campaign concept. And Ronald Reagan was one of the first candidates to lean into what we would call the Dixiecrats. Because at one time, the Democratic Party was, the way a lot of people look at the Republican Party, extremely racist. So when we think of the racism that existed in the American South, these were many Democratic elected officials, because the whole concept and the thought process of Ronald Reagan is like, I can lean into with what they call dog whistle language, hence a dog whistle you don't hear, meaning I'm going to say the right phrases without explicitly saying. Hence, by saying "Make America Great Again," it's like, okay. And then when you black, it's like, when the hell was America great? When you say I'm conservative, it's like, you conserving what? You know, so these are the thought processes,
There's
and
many
hence the
fine
dog
people.
whistle.
Fine people raiding the Capitol right now.
And all of the thought processes, you know, like that go along with this.
I remember one of the first incidents that took place during that time. Black family was having a picnic. White boys in the truck, pickup truck with the Confederate flags, drove through their picnic.
Damn.
Actually hit a little girl.
Wow.
And that was like, why did you think this was okay? How, you know, it was like, it was like blatant stuff had started to happen.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and I saw it, and that's where stuff came full circle to me now, where now I understood my Southern counterparts, because they would tell me, you can't be over there with them white folk, but in my head, oh no, they cool, I got this.
And it's an interesting concept of like when we speak to like that same ethos, the destructiveness, the nature, the violence, the anger that exists, because it is the idea, like, you know, the old Chris Rock joke, they taking the country away, and it's like, who is they?
Who is they?
The thought process, as it's like an underlying argument within that dog whistle language of, let's blame these people for all of your problems, instead of saying like, okay, let's be constructive and create systems that are equitable for everyone. But that goes against the whole idea, the premise of this rugged individual and American exceptionalism. The thought process of part of is more than me. And Lord knows, as much as I say that it's not an idea and ideal, you know, all my people that have heard my arguments about capitalism and saying that it's racism, not capitalism, this is definitely one of those capitalist concepts that is very destructive and into the American ethos. I don't want to just have money. I want to have more money than you.
Yep.
And I want to see you in a worse position than me. This is one of the ideas and the premises that like underlines
It's a seed. It
the
may not be
idea
said.
of what success is in America.
You want to Lord, you lord yourself over. Hey, this is why my chain is bigger than yours.
Yes.
It's not the fact that you got a chain too, congratulations, but mine's bigger than yours.
It's the whole, yes. And I mean, and when we say this, it permeates throughout the psyche of everyone. You know what I'm saying? And hence that's why you can have a billionaire be on a podium talking to a bunch of people that, you know, probably make $30,000 a year and talk about the tax breaks are bad to the rich, because the thought process in America is that one day I'm going to be a billionaire. And when I'm a billionaire, because I know I'm better than the rest of these people I'm standing next to, I need them tax breaks for me. Like, and it drives a lot of other people that think more communally, like, how do you relate to a billionaire in the first place?
Mr. Mr. Jesse, always would jokingly refer to me as Sammy Davis.
That's funny.
And I say, due to my age, what do that mean? You know what I'm saying? I don't look like Sammy Davis. He said, oh, because you one of them exceptional niggas. Boy, I done told you. Because at the job, I would give preferential treatment. I wasn't on the line. So it's not like I'm light-skinned or, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't understand. He said, you know how to act. You was up there. Look at you. You well-spoken.
And this
You ain't
gives...
like down here. And I understood that because listening to my black counterparts say, hey, you can't be over there, right? Because I'm in the mountains with my white friends. They got boats. We bass fishing. I'm doing all type of stuff that as an Inkster kid, I never did, right? So I'm enjoying it. But when Trump started running, do you know they would say stuff about the other blacks and be like, oh, not you, Jason, them.
Yeah. And that's the thought
What
process.
do you mean, not me?
Yeah.
I am them.
So coming back, I know, and we're running on time, but I do want to, coming back, things are even different here. I mean, it's different when you visiting, coming back is different than living.
When I came back,
what was the feel like?
I saw the need. People were in the same spot that I left.
Wow.
them at. I mean, like literally doing the same things. Like I can catch my guy still at the park. Like, wow. Like I've been gone 12 years and you was here before I left, you know? I had a chance, the rec was opening, the rec had closed previously, that I grew up affectionately loving. We had a chance to open it back up, me and crew, and we did it. Worked for low pay. At first, it wasn't no pay. We volunteered
At a recreation center.
At the recreation, we brought.
What type of because also at the pulse of like what type of families? What were the ages of the parents? What type of kids? What was pouring in?
It was a community effort, from old to young.
Well, not to get it open, but I'm saying as it was functioning. What were like the parents of the kids?
It doubled as a senior center as well.
Okay.
So you had the hierarchy of the matriarchs there.
That's cool.
But then you had the middle-aged group that were coming because we didn't have no budget. So you had retired teachers like, and that was my hustle. That was my hustle. When I went out and tried to get programs, I don't got no money for you, but I got some space. You know that idea that you've been wanting to do, but you couldn't facilitate it? I can. I work directly for the mayor. He told me, yeah, I can give you a classroom. You know what I'm saying?
So now in the politics and kind of understanding some of this functionality, what's your take? What are you thinking of seeing something like this come to life from a community effort?
So for me, and I spoke about this at Politics is Politricks, I was one of the ones who, prior to Obama, I never voted, didn't care. I'm like, this don't affect me. You know what I'm saying? Like, never trickles down to my community. Don't understand. But when I was able to get the rec back, working directly with the mayor, city council, helping Joel Jones, you know what I'm saying, run, just seeing this, and I was actually seeing the benefits of, hey, this council person can directly act this. The judge, the county commissioner, right? Glenn was cool, man. Super cool white dude, right? But Glenn really cared about Inkster. But he serviced Dearborn Heights, Taylor, but Glenn was at our city council meetings. And I could see stuff we talk about, and then you see Glenn on the news, he got some money to fix this street.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, wow, this is how you do this. So that really changed my mindset of, I get it, right? You have to create a base. You got to create these packs. You got to create these lobbyists, right? These groups. Yeah, they want our vote. So we'll go out and race to the vote. But what are we voting for? Do we have any, you know what I'm saying, ultimatums? Do we have any ideas? We say, hey, we need this done.
Yeah.
We had a black lady at the memory just popped up. I ran a campaign for her. They were trying to railroad her in Wayne Westland. Railroad her. So Inkster Public Schools shut down, right? City manager came, the whole nine.
So this is another thing as we'll close out on this story, but another thing that is very prominent in a state like Michigan, because even though, as you say, the North can be a lot like the South, it seems like when certain things function, but many of the cities with predominantly black populations, Highland Park, Inkster, Flint, have dealt with some of Benton Harbor, have dealt with some of the worst outcomes when it comes to what happens with any resourcing. So that is schools, that's recreational centers, that is public safety. So when we think about what's happened in these different cities, even Detroit itself and what Detroit has dealt with, the reality of black Michigander versus white Michigander based on where you live has been a completely different reality of things as common as schools not being inside of cities.
Not being inside the city. So, to end on this, school system shut down, right? Inkster Public School System. If you lived on one side, different, right? Because we always historically went. But Inkster is being raped of their resources and used purposely, right? I don't care because I don't work for the city no more, right? So I can now say this: Starfish. Starfish is one of the biggest culprits, right? Because, and companies like them, Inkster is only 4 square miles, 3 sets of projects, right? Per capita, high crime rate. And if you, so the actual demographic is insane when you look at the numbers. But you'll have these companies come and their base is there because that's they're going to get their funding. But then their actual programs they take elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you'll have headquarters, Starfish headquarters there, and they will do, I call blanket programs because they don't get what the community say. Hey, what do you need? What do the young boys want? What do the young girls want? What do the parents need? They just go to the rec and say, here, we got this program. And then when nobody shows up, that's their basis. That's their cast. Oh, well, we tried, nobody came. But that skilled trade program that you offer, you took to Berkeley, where they don't even need it. That skill, you know what I'm saying? This other program, you took over there. But they use Inkster. And that's what happened with the school system. The school system got wiped out. Now they're being bussed like it's the 60s to these other communities that were historically white and they didn't want them over there. So now you got these kids going to Wayne Westland. Now you got a different portion of the city going to Romulus. Now you got a different portion of the city going to Taylor. These parents who live in the projects, they could barely get to Inkster High. So they really ain't going to parent-teacher conference over there. The teachers are mad. Their parent base is mad because they don't want the kids over here. So depending on where you lived at, it might have been a set of project kids, which it was, the Lamont Gardens, Saigon or Denby Terrace projects, 2 sets of different projects, went to different schools. But now you got the kids from Lamont Gardens, Notorious Projects, now they over in Wayne Westland. Some bad, yeah, it's all type of stuff. But like we spoke on at Grand Valley, knowing the culture, he's not threatening you. That's just his demeanor, right? So now the discipline rate is disproportionate. It was crazy, but we had a superintendent that came. She was overqualified compared to everybody else, and she started shaking things up. And the staff got caught mocking her. They would go in her office, put her doctor degree hat on and robes with. It was a big text thread. They was sending them around. Oh, it was bad. And they collectively, as a group, got together and was like, she's no good. We don't want her. And they overthrew her. Wasn't enough support for her. And they got rid of her. But that's what's happening. You got these kids at these different schools with no support over there. And it's like desegregation all over again because where Inkster sits, we're the only black suburb out. If you think about it, it's Romulus, Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, Westland, Garden City, Taylor, Southgate.
Wayne, and there's some black folks out there,
But
it's a whole different, get down. So with that being said, man, we're gonna close out with classic Detroit is Different question, and we definitely gonna get you back for a part 2, man. And we're gonna do some more stuff. You're gonna see me and Jason and Brickmasters, but me and Jason gonna do some creative things too.
Spoken word.
So most definitely, I'm gonna close out with this classic because you're a music person too. You are the DJ at the end of the fireworks. Get to play 3 songs. What songs you playing?
Ooh. Ain't no stopping us now.
All right, I like that.
Cool and Gang. So for me, I wouldn't go hip hop. I wouldn't go major hip hop. I would
go.
We Are Family.
I like that.
I'm a real big community guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Summertime, Will Smith.
All right, so that is hip hop. So you close with the hip hop. I love it. Jason, this was fun, man. Thank you so much, and thank you for being so open and sharing that story, man. Some real deep game, and clearly you're gonna get back on this mic up here, man. All love. Peace.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.